Hello and welcome to the first episode of the third series of Two Pigs in a Pod, a podcast for the people of Glazing by the people of Glazing. For those new to this podcast, I'm your host, George Lewis, and I'm delighted to welcome onto the show today Howard Trotter, the business manager of Shelforce. Welcome to Two Pigs in a Pod, Howard.
Thank you very much, George. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on. So, as we'll go on straight on with the first question is, how did you first get involved with Shelforce?
Well, it's actually 13 years to this month. It was a
Nice.
temporary. It was a temporary consultancy role, if you like.
Yeah.
It's been the longest temporary job I've ever had. so, it's,
You must be doing something good.
so 13 years. But yeah, it was basically back in 2013 facing closure, basically. So it was a really poor story for a couple of years. It was about to shut
Yeah.
down, and my job was to come in and sort of to have a look at it to see if it was viable or not. And that was the introduction. It was a challenge, but that
Yeah.
was my
So,
introduction to
So
Shelforce.
did that is that what attracted you to the role? That it was a challenge, or what was it that sort of piqued your interest?
Well, I'd been in previous businesses where the job had always been to sort of cultural change, improvement, all of them sort of things.
Yeah,
So it was, yes, like a challenge is always what I love, a good challenge, and it was certainly a good challenge. If I'm brutally honest about it, I was working in Ireland at the time, and my wife's English, and she wanted to come back to England anyway. So
yeah,
it killed two birds with one stone almost.
yeah.
It was
The
one,
stars aligned.
the stars aligned, and it just was timing really. Um, yeah, so that was the reason why I came here.
Nice. And did you know anything about the glazing sector? Had you worked in it previously to
Yeah,
to, to working for Shellforce?
yeah, I'd been working in glazing and manufacturing timber windows for the previous 5 years, so I had a good understanding of how to manufacture windows and doors and that. Not PVC-U to be fair, but timber windows and doors. So yeah, I knew what I was getting into.
So before that, what did you know about the glazing sector? Before you started working with timber windows, what did you know about the glazing sector?
Pretty much nothing. The same as I mean, I'd be,
The usual answer.
yeah, but other than opening and shutting windows in our houses that I
Yeah,
lived in, and I suppose you don't realize the relevance or the importance of it until you actually get into it. You don't
no,
understand that windows and doors are the moving and operating parts of every property, aren't they? The security, the warmth, everything.
yeah,
So knew absolutely nothing about them other than, like most people, how to work them and how to open and close them, but had very little understanding of the safety aspects to it. About sort
yeah.
of fire safety, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, knew nothing about it really, other than pretty much the same as most people before I joined it.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things we've said on the podcast before. It's kind of, I think you see it so often, a window or a door, that you kind of just
Yeah,
sort of, pardon the pun, look through it. It's kind of you don't see what goes into making a window,
no,
and yeah, you
definitely
just
not.
like you said, open them and close them every day, 100 times a day, but not actually think of what what went into making those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, what have been the key moments of your career, maybe at Shellforce, and if there was anything before that working with timber?
Key points. I think from a management point of view, it's more than that. I mean, I've worked with timber for a lot of years now. Manufacturing furniture and kitchens and all sorts of stuff. I think my life started off in the Royal Navy, so teamwork is a big part. That was a pivotal moment in my life because learning how to operate as part of a team, and that later became important when I got into management, if you like. So yeah. So I think, I suppose, our industry, if you like. In the management of our industry. I mean, PVC manufacturing companies, PVC-U companies sprung up overnight, really, with maybe not a tremendous amount of management experience, if you like. So that became very important to me, is about understanding how to manufacture properly. And I got that experience in the furniture industry, believe it or not, world class manufacturer. So it was just basically taking them skills and bringing them into the businesses that I came into. And really, it's all about just manufacturing in the most efficient way possible, and most cost effective way possible. So yeah, they're the key things for me, was teamwork in the Royal Navy, and then working within furniture stroke timber, and regardless of what you make, I think the principles of efficient manufacture are the same regardless of what you make, really.
Yeah. Nice. And obviously, you say you've been at Shelforce for 13 years now. I don't think there's going to be many people that don't know who Shelforce is, but for those listening, can you give a brief description of who they are?
Well, Shelforce dates back to 1839, so it's got a really long history,
Yeah.
and it's always supported people. I mean, initially blind people, basically, but I mean, we've got some old books here that date back to 1900,
Wow.
of manufacturing workbooks, basically. That I mean, they made wire brushes, furniture, everything basically. You think they
Nice.
made mattresses for the RAF during the Second World War, so this
Yeah.
real long history of manufacture, and then sort of in the mid 80s got into um, the manufacture of windows. So that was the link. Basically was because they used part of a local authority. They sorry, I should have said they became part of the local authority in the mid 50s, if you like.
Okay.
That's when they became part of Birmingham City Council, if you like. And when people um, needed furniture, whatever, they were given coupons or vouchers to get it from Shelforce. But then, in the wisdom of government back then, they decided to give people money rather than vouchers. So the business almost died a death overnight in the 80s, which is why
Mm.
it turned to windows and doors, basically.
Yeah.
And that is how it's ended up making windows. But it has always supported people with disabilities, if you like, or regardless of what they are.
Yeah, and does it make you proud to have? We'll go on to talk about the working with disabilities, but proud of that history that Shelforce. Not many companies make it that long. Generally, not even just in glazing, but in world business, it's got yes impressive history to date back that long.
And enormous pressure comes along with
Yeah,
that, isn't it? I mean, if
yeah,
you think about it, I mean, 1839, you do not want to be the person in charge when the doors get closed.
yeah,
And that really struck me in 2013 when I came. I thought what an unbelievable history that the business had,
yeah,
and at that stage in 2013, to think, it was going through the last throes of getting towards closure. So the pressure was to you know to to keep it open.
yeah,
So but enormous pride in sort of the history of the business. And when you take a look at some of the old photographs and then being opened by Princess Anne and all that sort of stuff
yeah.
from the mid 80s, and that it's a tremendous amount of history that you just want to really build upon and drive forward. You know.
Nice. And do you think that recent, you've had a good recent history as well? Obviously, it's like we said, you've got the company goes back a while, but actually in recent times, in the times that you've been there, how's it evolved over that time in the sort of the last 13 years that you've been there?
Well, if I mean, the reality is, if you're not profitable, you're not going to survive.
Yeah,
So the headline figures, if you like, and they're just stuck in my mind. But back then in 2013, the turnover had died a death, literally died a death. And at the end of that first year in 2013, we managed to get a turnover of 747,000.
wow,
Now, if you take a look at last year, it's just under 9 million. You know,
wow.
um, back 2013, the losses were averaging around 2 million. That year it was
Yeah,
about 2 million, and that didn't include the grants that it was receiving, which were worth probably a quarter of a million. So in reality, the losses back then were probably 2.2 million, or just over 2.2 million.
wow,
For the last 4 or 5 years, we've made a 10% net profit.
amazing.
So very profitable. But the big thing for me is output per head. If you take a look in turnover in relative terms of turnover back in 2013, we were outputting on average 24,000 per head. Now this is every person within the business in this
Yeah,
calculation. So an output of 24,000 per head. And last year it was 266,000 per head. So it's an unbelievable change in terms of the profitability, the growth, all of them things.
yeah,
But the big story is I mean it was probably classed as a service back then to help people get into employment, and it didn't work. So it had to become competitive or shut.
yeah,
So it's become competitive, and the secret answer to why it's been so competitive is the resilience that is inbuilt within the staff,
yeah.
and that is the real story, really.
Yeah, nice. And before we speak about, the staff and your colleagues, how does it working with, Birmingham City Council, and how does it feel to be working with, a big council, one of the biggest in the country?
Well, Birmingham's obviously has had its challenges, hasn't it, over the last few years and that. But the potential is enormous. In terms of revenue. I mean, they've got just under 60,000 properties. So that need maintaining, if you like. Um, although to be fair, it has there's good bits and I wouldn't say bad bits to it, but compliance and rigorous testing and all that sort of stuff. Everything we do has to be absolutely bang on. There is no room for make it and hope for the best. It has to have gone through all the tests, and it's complete product testing. And what I mean by that is, in our fire doors, they're tested, including the installation, so all of that third party certified. Our windows have to be tested, including all the component parts, sills, expansion joints, all of that sort of stuff. So really rigorous sort of governance, if you like, and compliance. But the potential of that market, if you like, of 60,000 properties is enormous. So it's a dream to have that potential business. But but if you go back to 2013, on average, Birmingham City Council was fitting in, on average, probably just 5,000-6,000 windows a year, of which Shelforce was doing none of them. So we've had to win that business. We've had to be competitive, and we've had to be compliant. So massive pluses, but also we've had to tick all the boxes to make sure that happened.
Yeah, and do you think, we've got building regulations coming in this year, and compliance? Do you feel like you're maybe slightly ahead of the curve in terms of, making the business safe and secure and ready for these changes, because you've been working with a council where everything has to be absolutely perfect?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that. Apart from apart from the real human side of it, I mean, we all know about the Grenfell disaster and all the rest of it. We've got lads in our shop floor, are part of our team that live in social housing. So it's really personal. You've got you want people to be safe behind the product that we make, our doors and our windows and all the rest of it. So it is really personal, but you're absolutely right. I think we are ahead of the game because we've had to jump through all them hoops from day one. There's been no, I mean, Birmingham, the council can actually come into this factory at any point, pick any product at random, and take it off and test it. And if it doesn't pass all the weather tests, whether it's weather tests or past 24 security tests, then the contract's stopped. We stop manufacture. So,
Yeah, it's
so
just that
they can.
cutthroat.
It is that brutal. So
Yeah,
so so the bar, you don't raise the bar for a test. The bar has to be there all the time because they can come
yeah,
in at any time and
yeah,
test the product.
yeah. Nice. And like you said, you work with your company works with people with disabilities, and I know from sort of social media and your website that 75% of your company is people with disabilities. Like, how did that come about? It's an amazing stat for any company, but how did that come about in the first instance?
Well, in the first instance because it was a service to help
Yeah,
people with as a stepping stone, if you like. But I think the real cultural change over the last 13 years is about not labeling people or putting people in boxes.
yeah,
I mean, whenever you go into a business to change a business round, okay, it's either viable or it's not viable, and disability isn't an excuse for failing.
yeah,
I mean that sounds very harsh, but um, one of the first questions I asked the lads when I first came in here was, what is this place? Is it a place that employs people with disability, or is it a place that manufactures quality product? And they
yeah.
came back to me, all of them, and said, look, we just want to be a place that manufactures quality product. We don't want
Nice.
this label stuck on us that says
Yeah,
we're not much good or we're disabled, sort of thing.
yeah,
We don't want to be stuck in a box. And my approach then was, look, I'm a little bit like a football manager. If we're 2-0 down at halftime, what do you expect the team talk to be like?
mm,
And they're all football mad in here, and they said, "Well, we expect a bit of a roasting sort of thing." So we understood each other. So to answer your question is, we don't even look at the factory in the way that it has people with disabilities. We just
yeah,
we just look at what ability you need to do a specific task. That's it. So we
yeah,
don't. Um, which sounds maybe a little bit strange, but we genuinely don't. I don't um, treat people as if they have disabilities. I treat them the same as everybody else. We
Yeah.
have a profit to make. We have product to make. There's no forgiveness in that. We have to do that properly.
Yeah, and does that change your approach when you're hiring new people, when you're interviewing people, that it's more on their mindset and not so much on, their ability to work, but actually, going back to your Navy days, how they work as a team, and the end goal is to have a successful business rather than just bringing in someone in because they have a disability.
Yeah, look, we've got three: passion, commitment, teamwork. That's it. The basics are really simple. If you I mean, I go to enough industry events to know that there's a skills shortage. That's what everybody keeps telling me, that there's a skills shortage, even though there's close to 1 million kids between 17 and 24 that are unemployed. You know, um, to me, it's about attitude. It's about having the right attitude. If you get people with the right attitude, and this is what people don't get. If you've been, we've got some deaf lads here, and they've been deaf since birth. Now, if you've had to manage your way through life being deaf and learn how to communicate in a different way and survive and all of them things. If you look at a business problem or a manufacturing problem in comparison to that, it doesn't even register. So whenever you look at that resilience that these lads have got, and that is the secret weapon, it is, we can use that within a business environment, and it absolutely drives us forward with a passion. So it's about passion and commitment. That's what it's really about. Not about, we don't want academics. We want people that want to work on machines and have the skills to work on machines. We don't do formal. We haven't done formal interviews. We do sort of like work experience, paid work experience. So we'll bring kids in and say, like, have a go at this. We'll obviously mentor them and one-to-one them to make sure they do everything safely. And I think risk assessment is very important. You've got to do your risk assessment properly. But once that's done, and then you sort of create the environment where it is a good place to work. And you've got the opportunity, and my experience is that the business just goes from strength to center as a result of that attitude, if you like.
Nice. And do you think it's changed you as a manager, the way you look at things now, having had that 13 years at Shelforce, where you probably see things a bit differently than you maybe would have done all those years ago before you started at Shelforce?
Definitely. I mean, now, if you would have asked me 13 years ago to employ disabled people, I'd probably said,
Yeah,
there's going to be a cost and time associated and all the rest of it. But the reality is that the polar opposite,
yeah,
and you have to learn that. You have to gain that experience, and I can understand why people within the industry would think that way. I really,
yeah,
because I thought that way.
yeah,
I'm not some, you know, have great foresight that this would work. I didn't until
yeah,
I got in there, and then I started talking to the lads on the shop floor and realised that they were so much better than me in lots of ways.
yeah,
They want to work. You know, and and so to me, it changed me absolutely. It's changed me massively. That, I mean, we all love the underdog. The story of the
mhm,
underdog, and and this is what Shelforce is all about. I mean, these people have been battered so much, and what I mean by that, not given the opportunity to work.
yeah,
So whenever they've got that, they've grasped that, and they've just went for it. So it's changed my attitude completely, in terms of not putting people in boxes. Life is so much better without boxes.
yeah, yeah.
And just it's just that them core things about passion and commitment and teamwork, and yeah, that it's changed me massively, I think. Yeah.
Nice. And I know you as a company are massive about sort of training and making people better within the company. Can you explain some of the training programs that you work on within Shellforce, and how it sort of makes people have long careers at the company?
Nobody leaves here. Nobody lives here, George. We've
Yeah,
got lads here that's still in their
they're not
seventies. When I
allowed.
say when I say seventies, it's not that they're not allowed; they don't want to leave. I mean, they're in their
Yeah,
seventies. It's. I mean, we've got a real strong ethical base, okay. And people, I mean,
yeah,
people normally don't talk about ethics within business, but we all the time. And our ethics are very simple ones like honesty and accountability and
Mm.
selfless service, respect, integrity, loyalty, empathy. They're the ones that we focus on all of the time, you know.
Yeah.
So so our training and everything we do is about genuinely trying to make the environment in here like a family environment.
Yeah.
So what wouldn't you do for people you love? You would give them every opportunity, wouldn't you? And business. I mean, we tend not to bring that into business. We tend to keep family and business separate, if you know what I mean. But we don't here. We bring them values inside, and we say, okay, how
Mm.
do we make you the best person you can possibly be? How can we
Yeah.
give you that opportunity? You know, um, and that's what we do. We don't we try to keep it as informal as possible, but obviously we're not obviously we've got all the compliance like ISOs in place, 9001, 1445,
Hmm.
all these things. So we've got strict, you know, regimes in terms of how we run a business, if you like,
Yeah.
but in the organization is very much family orientated and using them values that we would use in with our families, if you like. And that's how we
Nice.
create the environment for people to move forward. They don't want to
Yeah.
leave, and then we basically treat everybody as an individual and look at what they need to progress and and do whatever it takes to get them to progress, if you like.
Nice. And do you think that your company is you said there earlier about that there is a a people shortage within our industry. Do you feel like the way that Shelforce is running with people with disabilities, but actually a successful business can really shine a light on our industry in general? You said like you bring work experience people in but that's good for our sector in general, right? Not just for Shelforce.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, if you just look at the figures, okay, ignore everything else. I mean, the reality is people are not going to employ disabled people. Well, some people may employ disabled because it's the right thing to do, but people generally want businesses to succeed and have
Yeah.
sustained success. Okay, now if you take a look at our turnover from 740,000 to just under 9 million, from
Mm.
2 million losses into profits of over 10% net margins.
Yeah.
Not only that, but we're a multi-award winning business. We Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year, King's Award for Enterprise. We've got the highest awards you can possibly get within business.
Yeah.
You know, so if you just look at that alone, forget about the disability bit, and just look at that alone for the last
Yeah.
13
A,
years,
a
and where
business.
we've
Yeah.
been and where we've come to, tell me it's wrong. Tell me it doesn't
Yeah.
work. So
Yeah.
so so is it good for this industry? It's good for any industry. If you can employ people that really want to work and will give you heart and soul, why wouldn't you want to take them on? So to me, the messaging is always very clear, and there's a lot of kids out there that are unemployed. Close to 1 million. So this constant conversation about there's a skill shortage. Well, we've got to do something about it as a business. We can't just whinge about it. We've got to do something about it and
Yeah.
take the jump. And
Yeah.
give people a chance, sort of thing. So to me, it works. It shines a massively good light on industry generally. I think we've got a brilliant industry, by the way. I think we've got, that bit not knowing what it was before, before,
Yeah.
to what I know it does now, and how technical it is and how it keeps people safe and, keeps fire the other side of a door and keep people safe
Yeah.
24 blocks up from falling out of a window, all of these things. And, the energy efficiency of the products that we manufacture. I think it's a brilliant industry to have an employment model that sort of reflects the sort of the strength of the products that we make as well.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think our industry is a brilliant one, but probably not enough people know about it. Like you said, when you started, when I started, knew nothing about the glazing sector in general. I think unfortunately that is kind of still the case. I'm sure it's a lot more well known, but I think having companies like yourselves that are a profitable business, but also helping a lot of people that maybe wouldn't get the same access to work that they might not elsewhere is it can break that pardon the pun glass ceiling of
Yeah,
actually showcasing our industry to a wider audience.
yeah, definitely. And I think it works. I mean, hard facts. it works. So my advice to anybody is just go for it, give it a go.
Yeah, nice. And what like you said when you first started at Shelforce, that sort of the common misconception about people working with disabilities, that like how do you kind of, when you're speaking to customers and you say 75% of our workforce has disabilities, how do those conversations work? Are they, do people, do you feel like people come in with a kind of a negative, and you show them what you actually do, you prove, like you said, the proof is in the results?
Yeah, perception is the mother of all problems, isn't it? Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. The perception is the perception, and you have to kill that. So, and if I look back 13 years ago, the perception was that it would affect quality, it would affect delivery, all of them things. Would the quality be good enough? Would we be able to deliver on time? They were that was the perception, and whether I agreed with it or not was irrelevant. It was the perception. The only way to change perception is by to deliver on time every time at the right quality. There's no getting away from that, and that is the battle. And this sounds really crude, when you say how do we sell it? We don't sell disability, and that sounds crude, but we don't. We sell quality products. You
Yeah,
know,
you
you
sell a
know,
successful business.
we sell a successful business. We don't. Other people tend to want to dwell on that because they want their, and there's nothing wrong with that. But other people want to dwell on that. Um, but my lads out here, if you come into this factory, it's like any factory up and down the land, and I think that's what really gets people whenever they first come in here. They just don't expect what they see whenever they come in, and it's just like any factory up and down the land. It's buzzing. It's positive. The lads, even the deaf lads, everybody will be over to you smiling and hello, because they understand what's really important, and well, it's a happy environment, but it's driving that forward. And my lads as well. I mean, if you ever take to TikTok or to Facebook, you'll see shell forces all over that. I mean, they are the new influencers of the future. It's not about me; it's about them telling their story. They've done the hard yards, if you like. So it's their story, and that's what we try and do as well. But the perception, we kill that dead by delivery and by quality. And if you've nowhere to go on that, you've nowhere to go on that. If the results are right.
Yeah, nice. And what advice would you give companies now? But I guess the work environment is the key, right? Is how the people are with. It doesn't matter about disability or whatever it may be. It's creating. Would you say that was, if you was to, you know, give another business owner, wanting to be where you were 13 years ago and say, this is what I need to create a successful business? Would you say that's where you should start?
It's small steps, isn't it? You've got to give it a go. If you, how do you know what the benefits are going to be unless you try it and gain that experience yourself? I'm not here to say I'm better than anybody else. I'm not. I just I'm smart enough to understand that when I experience something and it's a good experience and I see the benefits of that it would be madness for other people not to give it a go. You know, and I keep drawing always people back to the performance. You know, the growth, the profitability. The sort of the award winning part of it all. And them awards are extremely important. I mean, to put it into context, what the King's Award mean to people. Whenever we received the award in 2023, the Lord Lieutenant came into the factory. Well, actually, whenever we found out we'd got the award, it was the Deputy Lord Lieutenant come in, a lady called Helen Hickson, and she came in and she stood in front of all my workforce and she said, "I'm here on behalf of the King." You know, and to make a statement like that to 13 years prior, a business about to shut down, to people who had zero confidence and believed that nobody wanted to employ them, to a lady saying, "I'm here on behalf of the King," you know, to talk about what you've achieved. And one of the lads, and I'm not embellishing this. One of the lads, the tears were rolling down his cheeks, because he'd been a lad that had just been forgotten about, and all of a sudden somebody that was representing the King was standing in front of him saying, "I'm here to talk to you on behalf of the King." So it was enormous, enormous confidence boost for all of the team, in them awards. So to other businesses, I would just say, you you've got nothing to lose by giving it a go. If you're struggling to get, the right commitment from people in the workplace, try people that can't get a job, that want a job, and give them a go. Do your risk assessment, obviously, to make sure that that bit's fine. But we've got deaf people here. We've got people that are autistic. We've got some people with mental health problems. We've got one chap with cerebral palsy. We've got one that's partially sighted. So we've got a real mixture of right across and you walk into this factory and you would not tell the difference from any other factory up and down the land.
Amazing. And what does 2026 look like for you and the team you just mentioned?
Well, our strategy is about survival, number one, and
Yeah,
sustained growth and profitability. So they're the key things for us. We also we're starting to work on starting a new factory for ourselves to, much bigger factory so that
nice.
for our growth. So yeah, I mean, growth is the big, but profitability is more important than growth, obviously. So
Yeah,
so it's both of them things, and we work in difficult times, isn't it? With the industry taking a bit of a pounding because of economics and all the rest of it. So that efficient manufacture is always extremely important. But
yeah.
but but yeah, continued growth and profitability. That's for 2026 and
Nice.
beyond.
Nice. And lastly, for the main part of the podcast, like, how proud of you are you of the yourself and the team? And do you ever get a moment to actually step back from and look at what you and the team have created over the last 13 years?
I think moments like this sort of bring it into focus, really.
Yeah.
When you talk to people about it, and you almost feel sometimes it's the best kept secret on the planet because you question why aren't other people doing this? When
Yeah.
when we've seen this success, why aren't other people getting so engaged with this sort of stuff? And we're a team first and foremost in here. One of our ethics is selfless service. Which is it's not about me as an
Yeah.
individual. We're a team of people. We all, and it has to go beyond me and this team. It has to grow. To be. I mean, ultimately, the legacy would be that this employment model is replicated throughout the land. We'd love to see that, so that every kid. I mean, and the hardcore reality is there's mums and dads up and down the land, and I've met them that they're knocking on a little bit and worried about their kid, the statistic, thinking, well, what's going to happen when I'm not here anymore?
Yeah.
So we're the people that can do something about that. Not
Nice.
just me, but the people that listen to this podcast, the people
Yeah.
that are within the industry, they can be the real change. They can be the people that can give hope to all of them sort of adults, if you like. So,
Yeah.
so I'm enormously proud because of that, for that, creating a bit of that hope, that it does work, more proud of the team than I am of anything else,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Nice.
the biggie for me.
Yeah, nice. Well, I think you should be proud of the work that you put in. I'm happy to say that, and obviously what the team have done to do what you've done over and to get a King's Award, like you said, is shows you that you are doing something right. Whether you're happy to take a bit of on yourself, but yeah, congratulations on a really successful business.
Yeah, thanks very much.
So we're going to move on to our this or that round now. So this is brand new for this series, where I'll just ask you a question. It's just this or that, and very simple. Some of it will be to do with the industry, and some will be just generally what you prefer as Howard Trotter.
Okay.
So the first one is innovation or reliability.
Reliability.
Nice. Phone calls or emails.
Phone calls.
Coffee or tea.
Tea.
Nice. Mornings or evenings.
Mornings.
Nice. A routine or variety.
Variety.
Are you a risk taker or a risk manager?
Bit of both. Bit
Yeah,
of both.
you probably have to be.
Yeah.
Are you a listener or you're a talker, or both?
Listener, I would say. Yeah.
Nice. Are you very hands-on, or you prefer to be sort of step back and watch it from afar and step in when you need to?
It started off with hands on and then moved to the second.
No. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Yeah, I think so with this weather. And lastly, are you a city break or a countryside guy?
Countryside, definitely. Countryside,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Nice. Perfect. Well, thanks very much, Howard, for our last part of the podcast. We like to get our guests to give a shout out to people, it can be in the industry, out the industry, friends, family, whoever it may be. So, yeah, who are your shout out or shout outs for?
Yeah, everybody at Shelforce. I mean, all the lads on the shop floor, and lads and girls on the shop floor, they do a unbelievable job and have taught me a lot over the last 13 years, if you like. Um, I think our industry as a whole, I think it's an unbelievably good industry, a great
Yeah.
industry. I think we can adapt very quickly. We can move forward very quickly. I think Perplex, they've been on this journey with me
Yeah.
since so I really value them, if you like. Yeah. So, and then obviously the family at home, my wife at home, she's
No.
puts up with all my rantings and ravings at times whenever things are not going the way they should be.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Howard, for joining us on Two Pigs in the Pod today. It's been great to hear about you, your years in the glazing sector and obviously the amazing work, like I said, that Shelforce does.
No problem. Lovely to meet you.
So that's it for today. You can find this episode and all our previous ones on our YouTube channel at People in Glazing Society, available to download on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts, and also available on our website, www.peopleinglazing.co.uk. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. So thanks again for tuning in and see you again soon.